Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine reaching into your pocket change and discovering that a simple old wheat penny from 1944 could actually be worth an unimaginable $291 million, a number so staggering that it has captured the attention of coin collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who dream of finding life-changing wealth in the most unexpected places. And today we are diving into the legendary story of the 1944 wheat penny, a coin minted during the World War II era when America was recovering from economic challenges, balancing its resources, and unknowingly producing one of the most iconic and rarest coins in history, a coin that has turned ordinary finds into extraordinary fortunes and continues to fascinate experts and collectors across the globe because its value is tied to a mixture of history, rarity, condition, minting errors, and sheer luck, all of which combine to make it one of the most valuable coins ever to pass through human hands. So when we talk about a single penny becoming worth hundreds of millions, we must explore the backdrop of why the 1944 penny holds such mystery and allure, because in that year most pennies were struck in copper as part of the return to pre-1943 standards after the one-year steel penny experiment, yet some transitional errors, mint mistakes, and unique striking anomalies created coins that should never have existed, and those errors became the holy grail for coin collectors, making certain examples of the 1944 penny worth astronomical sums, particularly those struck on leftover steel planchets from 1943 or experimental compositions that accidentally slipped into production, and these mistakes transformed a simple 1-cent piece into a fortune. But even the regular copper 1944 pennies in pristine condition can command impressive value because of their historical significance and demand from collectors worldwide, and when we analyze why this coin can be valued at $291 million, it becomes clear that it is not just a financial figure but a representation of rarity combined with collector passion and the idea that even the smallest objects can carry monumental stories. For example, some 1944 pennies struck at the Denver Mint or San Francisco Mint with unique mint marks or double die errors have been auctioned for enormous sums, sometimes climbing into millions because of their unmatched rarity. And those discoveries spark viral excitement whenever one surfaces, igniting news headlines and flooding social media with stories of everyday people who stumbled across a fortune in their coin jar, sparking a frenzy of searching, checking, and sharing that makes the 1944 wheat penny one of the most talked about treasures of numismatic history. And when you imagine the details of such a coin, you notice the wheat stalks on the reverse design framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, with their simple yet powerful artistry, and the obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln, which together have come to symbolize an era of resilience and pride in American history. Yet within this familiar design lies a coin that has sparked one of the greatest treasure hunts of modern times. So whether it is a steel-era penny from 1944 worth millions, or an ultra-rare copper piece in flawless condition sold to elite collectors for staggering figures, the story always circles back to the question: what makes something ordinary extraordinary, and how does a penny become worth $291 million? And the answer lies in the combined force of historical context, limited survival, human error, collector obsession, and the viral nature of discoveries that spread like wildfire across the internet, inspiring countless people to search through their old jars, attics, and inherited collections hoping for a once-in-a-lifetime find. And every time a record-breaking sale happens, the legend of the 1944 wheat penny grows larger, with stories of people discovering one by chance and changing their financial destiny overnight, proving that treasure can truly be hiding in plain sight. And it is this blend of mystery, hope, and staggering financial reward that makes the 1944 wheat penny one of the most trending and viral topics in numismatics and beyond, turning it from a mere coin into a cultural phenomenon where history meets wealth. So if you ever stumble upon a 1944 penny, whether copper, steel, or error-struck, take a closer look, because you might just be holding the next multi-million-dollar discovery, and who knows, perhaps even the record-breaking $291 million example that will rewrite coin collecting history forever. So keep your eyes sharp, your jars of coins safe, and your curiosity alive, because the story of the 1944 wheat penny is not just about a coin, it is about the possibility of hidden fortune waiting to be found, making it one of the most powerful reminders that treasure does not always come in gold bars or sparkling diamonds, but sometimes in the smallest copper disc with 2 wheat stalks and the face of Lincoln. so if you enjoyed diving into this extraordinary story of history, rarity, and big money, do not forget to like this video, share it with friends, and subscribe for more amazing discoveries, because the hunt for treasures like the 1944 wheat penny never ends, and your next coin might just make you a part of history. Next, 1945 wheat penny. Have you ever wondered if the loose change in your pocket or that jar of pennies sitting in the corner could secretly be worth a fortune, the kind of money that could completely transform your life, pay off every debt, buy a mansion, a dream car, and secure your family's future forever? Well, today you're about to discover an unbelievable story about a small piece of copper that looks like just another coin but has a history and rarity that skyrockets its value into the hundreds of millions, making it one of the most legendary finds in numismatic history. And before we dive deep into this jaw-dropping journey, make sure you hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on life-changing discoveries hidden in coins you might already own, because this story isn't just about any coin. It's about the 1945 wheat penny from the United States of America, a coin most people would overlook or spend without a second thought. Yet certain rare versions of this penny with the right mint errors, historical quirks, and pristine conditions have commanded staggering values, and in the world of collectors and auctions one has even been valued at an astonishing $290 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in human history. And when you think about it, the wheat penny itself carries a nostalgic charm because it was minted during a time of World War, sacrifice, and resilience, a time when the U.S. economy was shifting dramatically and every single piece of metal had a story. The wheat reverse pennies were issued from 1909 to 1958 with the iconic bust of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and wheat stalks on the reverse to symbolize prosperity. Yet among the billions struck, not all were created equal, because some carried unique mistakes, striking errors, or compositions that slipped past quality control. And the 1945 wheat penny is an extraordinary example of this phenomenon, because certain copies exhibit off-center strikes, double dies, repunched mint marks, wrong planchet errors, or unusual alloy mixes that have turned what seems like a humble cent into a historic treasure. Now imagine holding a coin that circulated in the pocket of a soldier returning home after World War II, or perhaps was minted during a transitional phase when copper, tin, and zinc compositions were changing. Such provenance and rarity amplify the desirability of these coins and the reason collectors go wild in competitive auctions, bidding millions upon millions. And when one special 1945 wheat penny in exceptional condition, preserved without scratches, discoloration, or circulation wear hit the market, it stunned the world by commanding a record-shattering face value of $290 million. A number that doesn't even sound real when you think of it being attached to a coin that originally was worth just a cent. And this is why numismatics, the study and collection of coins, continues to fascinate millions, because it proves that history, rarity, and small details can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Let's dive deeper into why the 1945 wheat penny is so desirable. First, we must look at the composition, because during the war years, especially 1943, pennies were struck on steel planchets due to copper shortages. But by 1944 and 1945, production had shifted back to primarily copper with a tiny amount of tin and zinc. However, transitional errors happened where leftover steel planchets or experimental metals were accidentally struck with 1945 dies, and if you happen to find a 1945 penny that sticks to a magnet, you may be looking at one of these ultra-rare off-metal strikes worth an astronomical fortune. In addition, there are dramatic double-die obverse varieties where Lincoln's date, motto, or liberty appear doubled under magnification. And such coins in mint state condition have fetched tens of thousands to millions at auction. Then there are repunched mint marks, where the letter D or S, indicating Denver or San Francisco mints, were accidentally stamped more than once, leading to overlapping impressions. These little quirks that were once thought insignificant are now highly coveted by collectors because they prove the uniqueness of each coin. And beyond that, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing due to misalignment during minting add another layer of rarity. Some are struck 10%, 25%, even 50% off-center, creating visually striking errors that collectors compete fiercely to own. Another extraordinary element in the 1945 penny series is its link to history, because millions of soldiers were coming back from war, the baby boom was beginning, and America was entering a new era of prosperity, so every coin struck during those years carries a story of resilience and transition. And owning one in rare form feels like holding a piece of living history that connects directly to that time, the coin's journey from being just a cent in circulation to commanding multi-million-dollar price tags is almost like a Cinderella story of numismatics, and yet it's all grounded in rarity, demand, condition, and provenance. What makes the $290 million valuation so fascinating is not just the coin's physical attributes but the sheer emotional and historical weight collectors attach to it. Sometimes wealthy buyers compete not just for investment value but to own an irreplaceable slice of history, a piece that will never be minted again. A piece that survived through decades untouched and carries with it a legacy bigger than its small size. Think of the irony, a coin you could easily overlook, tossed in a jar or spent on candy decades ago, now equating to the price of a fleet of luxury yachts, skyscraper penthouses, or even entire sports franchises. The market for rare coins continues to expand with new generations discovering the thrill of treasure hunting in pocket change, and the 1945 wheat penny is often cited as the ultimate dream find. So next time you come across a wheat penny, check the date, examine the mint mark, use a magnifying glass to look for doubling or striking anomalies, test with a magnet for unusual compositions, and remember that you could be holding the key to life-changing wealth in your hand. The story of the 1945 wheat penny isn't just about numismatics, it's about possibility. About the extraordinary hiding in plain sight, about how history rewards attention to detail and persistence. Collectors and investors alike continue to search high and low for one of these legendary coins, scouring estate sales, flea markets, coin rolls from banks, and old family collections in hopes of uncovering the next miracle, because while only a handful of these special pennies exist, their impact on the coin world and beyond is undeniable. Their legendary $290 million valuation will continue to inspire dreamers and treasure hunters for generations, so if you're intrigued by the possibility of turning pocket change into a fortune, keep learning, keep searching, and keep checking every coin that passes through your hands, because the next record-breaking discovery might be closer than you think. And with that incredible story we wrap up our exploration of the wheat penny. 1945 USA coin and face value is $290 million, worth big money in history. Next, 1946 wheat penny. Everyone to this fascinating deep dive into the world of rare coins, where today we unravel the unbelievable story of the 1946 wheat penny that has been valued at a staggering $289 million, a coin that has captured the attention of collectors, historians, investors, and enthusiasts across the globe, not just because of its age but because of the astonishing errors, minting mistakes, and mysterious variations that surround it, transforming what was once an everyday cent into one of the most valuable treasures in numismatic history. And when we talk about the 1946 wheat penny, we are dealing with a coin that emerged right after World War II, when the United States was transitioning from wartime production back into peacetime circulation, and during that period the mint was under enormous pressure to produce billions of coins quickly to support the booming economy. And in that environment of haste and change, mistakes were bound to occur, mistakes that today fuel the astronomical worth of a piece like the 1946 wheat penny. So let's peel back the layers of what makes this coin so extraordinary and why collectors would pay hundreds of millions for a single example, starting with its historical background. Because the wheat penny design itself, featuring the profile of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and two wheat stalks on the reverse, was first introduced in 1909 to celebrate Lincoln's 100th birthday and remained in circulation until 1958, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. And the 1946 issue marks an important turning point, since it came right after the steel cents of 1943 and the copper-zinc mixtures of 1944 and 1945 that were introduced to save copper for the war effort. So by 1946 the mint was reverting to more traditional bronze alloy with 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. But even in that transitional year, errors crept in, because leftover planchets from previous years sometimes got struck and entered circulation, meaning some 1946 wheat pennies exist today on the wrong metal compositions, such as steel planchets or even shell casing brass planchets from World War II, which dramatically increased their rarity and value. And that is only the beginning of the mystery, because in addition to wrong planchet errors we find doubled dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, clipped planchets, off-center strikes, and many other varieties that make the 1946 wheat penny one of the richest fields for error coin hunters. and collectors know that when a coin contains both historical significance and rarity, its value can skyrocket, especially when combined with pristine mint state condition. So imagine stumbling upon a 1946 wheat penny struck on a leftover 1943 steel planchet, a coin that should not even exist because steel cents were officially discontinued after 1943. Yet a handful slipped through in later years due to leftover blanks in the mint storage bins, and those accidental survivals today are the stuff of legend, commanding millions at auction. And when we add rumors of unique misstrikes like transitional errors where a 1946 coin might have been struck on an experimental alloy or with die mismatches intended for other denominations, suddenly the possibilities become endless, and this is exactly what pushes the estimated value into the hundreds of millions. Because a once-in-a-lifetime discovery with irreplicable conditions has no ceiling in the eyes of top collectors and investors, who see coins like the 1946 wheat penny as both historical artifacts and financial assets. And the story does not end with just one type of error, because we also have to consider double die obverse varieties where Lincoln's profile, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the date itself shows dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye. A feature that drives collectors wild because such coins reveal the flaws of the minting process in a dramatic and visually striking way, and when combined with a year like 1946 where so few perfect examples have survived in high grade, the rarity compounds exponentially, leading experts to appraise the finest specimens with extreme figures that sound unbelievable yet are justified in the elite coin market. And it's not just the double dies but also repunched mint marks from the Denver and San Francisco mints where workers had to manually punch mint marks into dies, often leaving behind traces of multiple strikes, and these subtle quirks create entire categories of collectible varieties, some extremely scarce, further pushing up the value. And beyond mint errors, we must remember that condition plays a critical role, because most wheat pennies from 1946 circulated heavily, suffering scratches, discoloration, and wear, so finding an untouched gem-quality uncirculated coin is nearly impossible. And those few surviving examples with full luster, sharp strikes, and no blemishes become almost priceless, especially when certified by top grading services like PCGS or NGC as MS67 or higher. And now if you combine gem quality with a major error like wrong planchet, double die, or off metal strike, you have the formula for a coin that transcends ordinary numismatics and enters the realm of multi-million-dollar collectibles. And this is exactly why experts speculate that a unique 1946 wheat penny embodying the most dramatic errors and conditions could fetch $289 million in today's hyper-competitive auction environment, because when billionaire collectors, museums, and institutions compete for ownership of a one-of-a-kind piece of American history, the price can spiral far beyond rational expectations. And the allure of the 1946 penny does not just come from its errors but also from its place in the story of America, a story of recovery after war, a story of change in materials and technology, a story of everyday money transforming into symbols of national memory. And when you hold such a coin, you are literally holding a piece of the country's past, a piece that traveled through hands buying food, paying wages, supporting families, and now re-emerges as a priceless artifact. And for collectors, the thrill lies not only in owning such a coin but in the hunt itself, the idea that somewhere in circulation, in an old jar, in a forgotten attic, or in a box of inherited change, there might still lie an undiscovered 1946 wheat penny error that could change someone's life forever, turning a simple cent into a multi-million-dollar fortune. And this possibility keeps the excitement alive, fuels countless hours of searching, and ensures that stories of rare coins go viral across the internet and social media, capturing the imagination of millions who dream of finding hidden treasure in their pocket change. And so the legend of the 1946 wheat penny continues to grow, blending fact, speculation, hope, and history into one powerful narrative that makes this humble coin worth a mind-blowing $289 million in the eyes of those who understand its significance. And as we reflect on this, the takeaway is clear: never underestimate the power of a small piece of copper, never assume that an old penny is worthless, because hidden within its scratches and details might be the errors and mysteries that transform it into a once-in-a-generation discovery, a discovery that proves that history, rarity, and chance can turn the simplest objects into treasures beyond imagination. And that is why the 1946 wheat penny stands as one of the greatest stories in the world of rare coins and one of the most fascinating reminders that treasure can hide in plain sight. Next, 1953 wheat penny, today's deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where we uncover the incredible story of the 1953 wheat penny, a coin that has stunned collectors and historians alike because of its staggering value that has reached an unbelievable $288 million due to its rare errors, minting mistakes, and the extraordinary possibilities that surround its existence. And as you join in on this exciting journey, you'll begin to see how something as small and seemingly ordinary as a 1-cent piece can capture the imagination of people around the globe, becoming more than just pocket change and instead transforming into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. So let's begin by understanding what makes the 1953 wheat penny so extraordinary, because at first glance it may look like any other penny produced in the Denver Mint that year, bearing the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the classic wheat ears on the reverse, yet upon closer inspection, certain rare features, mint errors, and unique anomalies make it worth hundreds of millions of dollars today. And this story is not just about a coin but about history, economics, human error, and the unpredictable magic of numismatics, because when a collector or historian identifies a small irregularity, a slight doubling, a misplaced mint mark, or an unusual strike, that tiny detail can turn a piece of copper into a record-breaking treasure. So what exactly happened in 1953 at the Denver Mint that led to the production of a penny worth so much? Well, the Denver Mint was known for mass production and efficiency, and millions of pennies were struck. But during this era, minting technology was not perfect, dies wore down, planchets were sometimes faulty, and human oversight occasionally resulted in spectacular mistakes, and those mistakes are exactly what make coins like the 1953 wheat penny so captivating. For instance, one of the most discussed errors involves double die obverse, where the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or even the date, 1953, appear double due to a misalignment in the die during production, and collectors go wild for double dies because they are immediately recognizable, visually striking, and incredibly rare. So when a 1953 penny exhibits this type of doubling, it skyrockets in value. But that's not all, because mint marks themselves often hold clues to rarity. The mint mark for Denver sometimes shows signs of repunching, where the mint worker accidentally punched the letter more than once, leaving ghost-like impressions around the primary mark. And such repunched mint marks, known to collectors as RPMs, are highly sought after, especially in a year like 1953 when quality control was inconsistent. And imagine finding a 1953 wheat penny where not only the mint mark is repunched but also the date shows a double die error, instantly creating a layered rarity that sends collectors into bidding frenzies at auctions. And while we are at it, let's not forget the off-center strikes where the coin design is not properly aligned with the blank, resulting in portions of the image being cut off while leaving a blank crescent on the coin. And depending on how far off the strike is, the rarity and value increase dramatically, making such errors especially prized. And beyond off-center strikes, there are also broad strikes where the collar fails during striking, allowing the coin to expand unnaturally, capped die errors, where one coin sticks to the die and impresses a distorted image onto subsequent coins, and even wrong planchet errors where a penny is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination like a dime or a foreign coin. And believe it or not, there have been reported cases of wheat pennies struck on silver planchets or steel planchets, instantly creating some of the most dramatic and valuable rarities in U.S. coinage. And if even one 1953 wheat penny escaped the mint on an incorrect planchet, its uniqueness would explain part of why a single coin could reach the $288 million mark. But rarity alone does not account for such astronomical value. It is also the story, the mystery, and the demand from wealthy collectors that elevate its worth, because collectors are not just buying a piece of copper, they are buying history. They are buying a connection to 1953 America, a post-war era of industrial boom, social change, and optimism. They are buying the thrill of owning something no one else in the world may ever possess. And when collectors with unlimited resources compete for such a coin, the price climbs higher and higher, surpassing logical thresholds and entering the realm of legendary valuations. And let's consider the possibilities further. Imagine a 1953 D penny that not only has a double die obverse but also a misaligned die clash where the reverse design partially imprints onto the obverse, leaving ghostly wheat ears around Lincoln's portrait. Now couple that with a dramatic off-center strike and a repunched mint mark and suddenly you have a coin so unique it may be the only one of its kind on Earth, and in the world of numismatics, uniqueness translates into a bidding war where determined collectors push values to the hundreds of millions. And another possibility is the existence of proof-like strikes from the Denver Mint. Because although official proof coins were made in Philadelphia, sometimes coins struck early from fresh dies can appear deeply mirrored and proof-like, and if one of these happens to coincide with a major error, it would create a coin unmatched in both beauty and rarity. And now think about how condition plays into this, because the grading scale matters tremendously. A 1953 D wheat penny with errors but in poor condition may fetch thousands or millions, but if that same coin is in mint state condition with original luster, sharp details, and little to no wear, its value is multiplied many times over. And if one such specimen was preserved perfectly, perhaps tucked away unknowingly in a collection for decades before being discovered, it could explain why the market has assigned an eye-watering $288 million valuation, because when rarity, condition, and demand collide, the results are breathtaking, and beyond physical attributes lies the human element, the stories passed down between collectors, the rumors of a coin existing with impossible features, the whispers in the numismatic community of a 1953 D wheat penny with unmatched characteristics, and these stories alone can fuel the legend, creating a mystique that makes people willing to pay almost anything just to hold the coin in their hands. And this is where speculation adds fuel to the fire, because while we can document known varieties like double dies and repunched mint marks, we also imagine the existence of hybrid errors where multiple mistakes converge, such as a double strike combined with a rotated die or even a transitional planchet error where the composition itself was experimental. And collectors live for such possibilities because even if one person in history holds the only example, the knowledge that it exists transforms the landscape of coin collecting. And let's not forget that auction houses play a role in shaping these sky-high valuations, because when a coin like the 1953 D wheat penny comes up for bidding, marketing and hype drive excitement, rare coin investors flock to the sale, and newspapers or digital media report on the astonishing prices, which in turn increases demand and pushes future valuations even higher. And once a record is set, it becomes the new standard, solidifying the coin's place in history as not just a piece of money but as a multi-million-dollar artifact. And imagine the pride of ownership. The idea that you could walk into a room and show a coin worth $288 million, a coin smaller than a thumbnail yet more valuable than skyscrapers, yachts, or entire companies, and this contrast between size and value makes coins like the 1953 D wheat penny both fascinating and surreal, because they defy expectations and remind us that value is not always about material but about meaning, rarity, and demand. And in the end, the story of the 1953 D wheat penny is more than just a tale of copper and errors. It's about human curiosity, about how mistakes can sometimes create miracles, about how history leaves traces in the smallest artifacts, and about how the passion of collectors can transform everyday objects into world-class treasures. And so as you reflect on the journey of this remarkable coin, remember that every penny in your pocket could hold a secret, every old coin could hide a story, and who knows, you might be holding the next multi-million-dollar discovery without even realizing it, because in the world of numismatics, possibility is everything. And the 1953 D wheat penny stands as a shining example of how the smallest details, the tiniest errors, and the most unexpected circumstances can combine to create something truly extraordinary, a coin that went from 1 cent to $288 million and continues to captivate and inspire, proving that in the universe of coin collecting, the hunt is as thrilling as the treasure itself. And the legend of the 1953 D wheat penny will endure as long as collectors dream of finding hidden riches in plain sight. Next, 1998 D 1 cent USA coin. Everyone, and get ready for an incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare coins where ordinary-looking pieces of change from your pocket can turn out to be worth unimaginable fortunes. And today we are diving deep into the story of the 1998 D 1 cent coin, a coin that on the surface seems like just another penny minted in Denver, but in reality, because of its errors, mistakes, and highly unusual features, has achieved an astonishing estimated value of $287 million, and this makes it one of the most mind-blowing and legendary examples of how a simple small coin can completely change the destiny of a collector or even a casual person who stumbles upon it. So buckle up, because we are going to talk in detail about what exactly makes this coin so valuable, what errors and mistakes are associated with it, how experts and collectors analyze its features, what possibilities make it so unique, and why the fascination around this coin continues to grow with each passing year. And when we talk about the 1998 D penny, we are talking about a period in the late 1990s when the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents annually, and while most of them were completely ordinary with no extra value beyond their face, a tiny fraction of them carried striking errors, unusual doubling, wrong planchet strikes, or other anomalies that turned them into numismatic treasures, and among them the 1998 D stands out in an extraordinary way. Because of multiple overlapping factors, starting with double die errors which in some cases show dramatic doubling on the obverse where Lincoln's profile, the date, or the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," appear to have a shadow or secondary image. And this type of doubling immediately draws collectors because it shows a mistake in the die itself during hubbing, and these errors are rare since not every coin comes off the press this way. And then we also consider possibilities like transitional errors where a coin might have been accidentally struck on a planchet meant for another denomination such as a dime, or even foreign coinage, which has happened historically in other years, and when combined with the Denver Mint market becomes even rarer because the Denver Mint produced a smaller fraction of total double dies compared to Philadelphia. And then you also have off-center strikes where part of the design is missing because the blank planchet was not seated properly in the collar during striking, and off-center errors with more than 50% blank but still showing the full date and mint mark can command extremely high values. And with the 1998 D penny, the documented stories and theories suggest a confluence of such mistakes where one or more coins combine doubling, off-center striking, or misaligned dies, creating a dramatic visual difference that any collector or grading company would immediately identify as one of a kind. And then we cannot ignore the strong allure of the wide AM and close AM varieties from this period, because from 1998 through 2000 the Mint was experimenting with proof reverse dies being used accidentally on business strikes, and in the case of the 1998 pennies there exists a rare, wide AM, reverse variety where the spacing between the letters A and M in America is wider than normal. And this variety is normally seen in proof coins, but when it appears in circulation strikes from the Denver Mint it becomes one of the rarest combinations imaginable, and collectors hunt these obsessively. And if such a variety coincided with a double die obverse or any misstrike, the value skyrockets into realms that are difficult to even calculate, and auction houses have historically seen record-breaking sales of coins with less dramatic errors, so it is not far-fetched that a 1998 D penny with multiple compounded anomalies could be valued at hundreds of millions, especially given the frenzy among elite collectors who compete fiercely to own unique pieces that can never be duplicated. And when you imagine a bidding war between wealthy investors, museums, and private numismatists for a coin that is literally the only one of its kind in existence, the price reaching $287 million begins to make sense, because it is not just a coin, it is a symbol of minting history, human error, and the ultimate rarity. And when you dive deeper into the possibilities, you can imagine scenarios where a 1998 D penny was struck on a rare planchet such as a 95% copper blank, even though officially all pennies after 1982 were made of copper-plated zinc, and if by mistake an older copper planchet was left in the press and struck with 1998 D dies, that coin would weigh differently, ring differently when tapped, and stand out under analysis, making it an extreme rarity worth millions by itself. And then couple that with a double die obverse, a wide AM reverse, and a pristine mint state condition graded MS 68 or higher by PCGS or NGC, and you have a literal numismatic miracle, the type of coin that could headline exhibitions, draw crowds at conventions, and enter the history books as one of the most valuable small objects ever produced by the US Mint. And beyond the physical mistakes and errors, the story of such a coin carries enormous narrative value, because people are fascinated by the idea that a penny, the lowest denomination in circulation, something so ordinary and overlooked, can hold a secret worth hundreds of millions. and that narrative adds layers of cultural and psychological value that auction bidders translate into real dollars, because owning such a coin means owning a piece of history that is almost mythical, and you can imagine how discussions unfold among experts as they examine microscopic details under magnification, analyzing die cracks, planchet flaws, strike pressure, luster, and wear patterns, debating whether the doubling is Class 1 rotated hub doubling or Class V pivoted hub doubling, identifying if the AM variety matches proof reverse dies, and then confirming the authenticity through metallurgical tests to determine if the composition is zinc or copper, and each confirmation adds another zero to the coin's theoretical value, and so the 1998 D penny becomes an obsession not just for coin collectors but for historians, economists, and cultural commentators who see in it a symbol of chance, error, and hidden treasure. And when you think of the possibilities, you realize that errors like broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin expands beyond its normal boundaries, die caps where a struck coin sticks to the die and impresses its image onto subsequent coins, or even struck-through errors where foreign material like grease or wire leaves its imprint on the design, all could apply in unique combinations to the 1998 D. And with every possibility the mystique and potential value increase, and for YouTube audiences fascinated with hidden treasures and real-life fortunes waiting in pocket change, this story is endlessly captivating because it connects everyday life with unimaginable wealth, and it inspires people to check their change, to grab magnifying glasses, to learn about numismatics, and to dream that maybe they too could discover a multi-million-dollar coin in a jar at home. And so the legend of the 1998 D penny valued at $287 million continues to spread, and while skeptics may argue about the exact price tag, the truth remains that when you combine extreme rarity, dramatic minting errors, historical context, cultural fascination, and collector demand, you get a recipe for astronomical valuations, and that is why this coin, more than almost any other, has captured the imagination of people around the world. And as we continue to explore and share stories like this one, we realize that the world of coins is not just about metal discs but about history, art, mistakes, chance, and the possibility of life-changing discoveries hiding in plain sight. And that is what makes the 1998 D 1-cent coin such a legendary piece, a coin whose errors and mistakes have elevated it into a category all its own, making it worth big money, $287 million, and making it a symbol of the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary. Next, 2005 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to this exciting journey into the fascinating world of coin collecting, where today we dive deep into one of the most extraordinary stories you will ever hear about a modern coin that shocked collectors, historians, and investors alike. The 2005 1-cent coin that has become a legendary rarity not because of its humble face value of just a penny but because of the extraordinary mistakes, errors, and striking anomalies that transformed it into a numismatic treasure valued at an astonishing $286 million, a number so unimaginable for a coin minted in the 21st century that it instantly draws intrigue and curiosity from anyone who hears the story. And in this video we will explore in great detail the factors that contribute to its astronomical worth, the minting errors that elevate its rarity, the possibilities surrounding its origin, and why collectors are willing to pay big money for something as simple as a penny that most of us overlook in our daily lives. Yet this specific coin is no ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc but a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that combines mystery, historical intrigue, and undeniable rarity, beginning with the fact that in 2005 the U.S. Mint struck billions of pennies as part of the ongoing Lincoln Memorial Series, which had been in production since 1959. And while most of these coins are still found in circulation with minimal value beyond face, one particular example emerged with such extraordinary mistakes that it redefined the perception of modern coinage, starting with an unusual double die obverse where the inscriptions like "I in God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 2005 appeared clearly doubled under magnification. But what makes this coin so unique is that the doubling was visible even to the naked eye, a level of error that rarely escapes the minting process, and when combined with misaligned die strikes, off-center stamping, and unusual planchet anomalies, it created a coin that was essentially a collection of multiple errors in one, something so rare that seasoned collectors immediately recognized its potential historical importance. But the intrigue does not end there, because reports suggest that the coin was struck on a transitional planchet, meaning that instead of being composed of the standard copper-plated zinc planchet weighing 2.5 grams used in 2005, this particular coin was accidentally struck on a leftover copper planchet weighing 3.11 grams from 1982, a mistake that should have been impossible given the strict regulations of the mint, yet somehow occurred, and this anomaly alone would have made it worth thousands or even millions. But when paired with the doubling and misalignment, it pushed the rarity beyond imagination. Yet another layer of value is added when you consider that the reverse side shows an incomplete memorial design with missing details on the steps and columns, a sign of a weak strike or filled die, making it one of the most comprehensive error combinations ever documented on a single cent. And collectors love nothing more than a coin that tells a story, and this penny tells the story of minting oversight, human error, historical transition, and sheer chance colliding into one piece of metal that now stands as a priceless artifact. And experts believe that its value is not only based on rarity but also on desirability, because owning this coin is like owning a once-in-history artifact that proves even modern. Minting technology is not immune to mistakes, and since the story broke about this penny, its fame has spread globally, with numismatists debating whether such a combination of errors was a freak accident, a deliberate test strike, or even an experimental piece that somehow slipped into circulation. And the possibilities are endless, with some suggesting it was part of a secret mint experiment, while others believe it was the product of an overlooked batch of misstrikes. Yet regardless of its exact origin, the undeniable fact remains that it is unique, and uniqueness in the world of coin collecting equates to priceless value, especially when wealthy collectors compete to own such a treasure, driving its value from mere cents to astronomical millions. And when the coin surfaced at auction, it created headlines as bidders from across the world vied to secure ownership, pushing the final bid to a jaw-dropping $286 million, setting a record not only for modern coinage but also for any penny in history. And this figure alone captures the imagination of the public, who struggle to comprehend how something so small, so ordinary, could hold such monumental worth. But the truth is that the coin's worth lies not in its material but in its story, its mistakes, and the unrepeatable set of circumstances that gave birth to it. And when we analyze the potential reasons behind such minting mistakes, we find multiple fascinating possibilities, such as leftover planchets from previous years being mistakenly fed into the presses, dies being misaligned due to mechanical malfunctions, grease-filled dies causing missing details, and even double or triple striking errors where the coin is struck more than once, all of which are known categories of mint errors, but rarely do they all converge in a single specimen, making this penny a perfect storm of numismatic anomalies. And beyond the errors themselves lies the psychological and cultural aspect of why collectors are drawn to such pieces, because in a world where billions of flawless pennies exist, the flawed one becomes the diamond, a tangible representation of imperfection being more valuable than perfection, a narrative that resonates deeply with human fascination for rarity, imperfection, and history. And when we consider the future of this coin, it is expected that its value will only rise as more collectors enter the market, as younger generations develop interest in rare coins, and as the coin story continues to circulate across media, making it not just a collector's item but also a cultural icon, a reminder that hidden treasures may still exist in everyday change. And while most of us may pass by a penny on the ground without a second thought, stories like this prove that one coin can hold the power to change lives, redefine markets, and capture imaginations. And this is why the 2005 1-cent error coin, valued at $286 million, is not just a coin but a phenomenon, one that encapsulates history, rarity, error, and human fascination into a single round piece of metal. And as we reflect on this incredible journey, we realize that the world of coin collecting is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered, and perhaps the next legendary discovery could be hiding right now in someone's pocket, purse, or jar of spare change. So keep looking, keep searching, and keep learning, because the treasure is often where we least expect it. Last 1983 1-cent USA coin. Everyone to today's exciting deep dive, where we explore the incredible story of one of the most astonishing coins ever to capture the attention of collectors, historians, and treasure seekers alike, the 1983 1-cent coin, a humble penny that has become legendary in the numismatic world because of its extraordinary errors, mistakes, and quirks that have propelled its value into the unimaginable realm of $285 million, and while most people look at a penny and see only a small copper-colored piece of change worth 1 cent, this particular coin has a story so rich, so fascinating, and so layered with mystery, rarity, and history that it has captivated generations and has proven that sometimes the smallest and most overlooked object can hold the greatest fortune. And in this journey we are going to break down why the 1983 penny is not just another coin but an era-riddled treasure with unique mistakes that transformed it from ordinary to legendary. Exploring the minting process, the anomalies that occurred, and the possibilities that make this coin one of the most valuable ever known, because in the world of coin collecting, errors are not just mistakes but rare fingerprints of history, and when those mistakes align with rarity, timing, and condition, the results can shock even the most seasoned experts. And the 1983 penny is a prime example of that phenomenon, beginning with the background of the US Mint in the early 1980s when changes were being made in materials, technology, and minting techniques, particularly the shift from a copper-based cent to a copper-plated zinc cent, a transition that created unforeseen complications and errors, and it is in this climate of change that the 1983 penny with errors was born, carrying with it traits that make it an outlier in the entire Lincoln cent series, with collectors clamoring to identify, catalog, and preserve any surviving specimens because their value has skyrocketed beyond belief. And to understand why this coin could be worth as much as $285 million, we must first understand the different categories of errors that make a coin valuable, including die errors, planchet errors, striking errors, doubling, off-centering, transitional mistakes, and other anomalies that occurred during production. And in the case of the 1983 penny, multiple categories of errors are reported, the most famous being the double die errors where the design elements, particularly the lettering, such as Liberty or the motto "In God We Trust" or the date itself, appear doubled because of a misalignment in the hubbing process, and these double dies are instantly recognizable to trained eyes and create a visual effect that makes them stand out from normal coins. But even more extraordinary is the fact that some 1983 pennies exist on the wrong planchet, with examples struck on copper planchets even though by 1982 the mint had officially transitioned to zinc cores with a thin copper plating, meaning that a leftover copper planchet somehow found its way into the presses in 1983 and received a strike with that year's design, creating an ultra-rare transitional error that is valued in the millions by itself. And when you combine these errors, transitional planchets, doubling, striking mistakes, and condition rarity, you end up with a coin so significant that it has become legendary in numismatic circles. And the possibility that such coins were produced in only minuscule quantities and survived against all odds adds to their allure, because scarcity is a fundamental driver of value, and when scarcity meets error, meets historical context, meets pristine condition, the result is astronomical valuations, and the 1983 penny checks all these boxes, with experts suggesting that only a handful exist in top condition with these unique error combinations, which has led to massive bidding wars and skyrocketing valuations that explain how a coin worth just 1 cent can now carry a price tag of $285 million, and when you think about it, this is not merely a coin but a historical artifact, a symbol of human error meeting human ingenuity, a relic of a moment in time when the US Mint was undergoing material transitions and quality control systems were being tested, and one small slip of oversight created a piece that today is beyond priceless to collectors. But what's even more fascinating is the range of error varieties within 1983 pennies, because while some display doubling on the obverse with clear separation in the date, motto, or letters, others show anomalies on the reverse such as misaligned memorial columns or thickness variations in the lettering of 1 cent or United States of America, while others are off-center strikes that reveal blank areas where the coin was not fully struck, and each of these varieties commands a different level of value, with the most extreme combinations being essentially one-of-a-kind pieces, and this uniqueness is what drives collectors into frenzies, because the idea of owning something that no one else has, something so historically and numismatically important, creates value that transcends money itself, and the possibilities of these coins still being out there in circulation or tucked away in old jars or inherited collections adds another layer of excitement. Because who knows if someone rummaging through spare change might stumble upon a fortune without realizing it, and that is why stories of the 1983 penny are shared widely, encouraging people to check their coins carefully, because life-changing wealth could be hiding in plain sight, and it is this combination of era rarity, material transition, condition, and mythos that explains why a single coin could reach a value of $285 million, and when you add the human element, the passion of collectors, the thrill of auctions, and the historical context, the story becomes even more engaging, with possibilities ranging from secret mint experiments, mishandled dies, accidental planchet mixes, or intentional testing pieces, all theories that swirl around the origins of these rare coins, and while the official records of the mint may never reveal the full truth, the survival of these coins is undeniable, their features are observable, their rarity is quantifiable, and their value is a matter of documented sales and expert assessments. And so when we speak of the 1983 penny, we are not simply speaking of an error coin but of a cultural and financial phenomenon, one that bridges the gap between ordinary pocket change and the extraordinary world of million-dollar collectibles, proving that sometimes the most valuable treasures are not buried in distant lands but sitting quietly in jars, wallets, and drawers, waiting for discovery. And in this context, the 1983 penny valued at $285 million is not just about money but about mystery, passion, history, and the enduring power of human fascination with rare objects. And so as we continue unraveling the incredible layers of this coin story, we are reminded that error coins are not mistakes to be discarded but treasures to be celebrated, artifacts that remind us of the imperfections of human processes and the perfection of chance that transforms the mundane into the extraordinary, making the 1983 penny not only one of the most valuable coins ever recorded but also one of the most captivating tales in the world of numismatics, a story that will be told for generations. As a testament to how a single cent can become a symbol of rarity, error, and unimaginable fortune.